Half a day, everybody. Welcome to the Hotspot. I'm Jason Salas. That's Mike Villagomez laughing in the background. We are coming to you live from our Harmon studios on YouTube, on Facebook, and on KUAM TV8. Tomas Manglonia joins me in just a moment with the very latest. But here is what we are working on today's show.
The menu, brought to you by King's Restaurant, always open, always local, and Ruby Tuesday Guam, home of the fresh Garden Bar.
Lawmakers head into session to discuss the fiscal year 2023 budget this afternoon. We will also, as I said, be joined by Tomas, who remembers KAL Flight 801. The military exercise Citadel Pacific 2022 is set to start in just a few days' time, and we'll also bring you Candidate Conversations, our ongoing political series. But first, the fiscal year 2023 budget session is scheduled to begin today at 2 p.m. And before getting into the nuts and bolts of the spending plan, senators will first have to agree on how much money is coming and what they can spend. KUAM spoke with Governor Lou Leon-Guerrero and Minority Leader Chris Duenas about their views on the nearly $1 billion in projected revenue.
I'm very positive that it would, even at the end of fiscal year 2022, when we see the financial audits, that we'll definitely verify and confirm those projections.
I would say right now it's preliminary to say that we accept the projections at this point. I would like to see first of all, the back and forth between OFB and BBMR as is tradition when we open the budget process, and then see if that's in harmony. And then see why it's in harmony if it is. And then once we get down to work, it will be line by line, Nestor, and you can expect us to be hawkish on that.
Now, a key issue for both the administration and the legislature will be funding the raises that the governor doled out by executive order to teachers, policemen, firemen, and nurses. The island's Magahaga says she has the reassurance of Appropriations Chairman Senator Joe San Augustine, who will preside over the budget talks, that the salary increases will be protected.
You know, there's been a discussion about out there about how do we sustain these salary increases. It will be sustained by putting it in the budget moving forward. So he's agreeable, and that's what I expect will happen. For me, and I know that many of our Republican colleagues from our side of the aisle, what we want to make sure is all the priorities and all the commitments will be funded first. And then we'll go in and break it down from there. But anything that's been passed by executive order should now be codified by legislation. We should take those priorities first: public safety, education, and the healthcare raises that have been put out, and then everything else should come after that.
Your elected senators have until the end of the month to submit a budget to the aforementioned governor. A COVID-free President Biden and the First Lady traveled to Kentucky to survey the damage and meet with victims of the worst flooding in the Bluegrass State's history. Kentucky's governor says at least 37 people died and 2 are missing. The commander-in-chief made additional disaster assistance funding available.
President Biden and the First Lady joined Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear to get a close-up look at the devastating flood damage in eastern Kentucky. They offered comfort to the victims.
You see what's happened to their properties, their trailer, everything they had, and how they've come together. No complaining, just getting up. And going to get done.
At an elementary school now converted to a donation center, the president received a briefing on response efforts.
Federal government, all its resources, we're not leaving. As long as it takes, we're going to be here.
It's the president's second visit to the Bluegrass State in less than a year. Last December, he surveyed the damage after tornadoes ripped through western Kentucky, killing 77 people.
The trials and tribulations we Kentuckians have faced are hard to understand. The one thing we've proven over and over is that Kentuckians do not break.
During the trip, the Biden administration again pointed to the impacts of climate change and the need to invest in making communities more resilient.
We're going to come back better than before.
Now, as Kentuckians dig out, there's still the threat of even more flooding, with heavy rain in the forecast this week.
U.S. Naval Base Guam, along with various Navy first responders and other news, will participate in the annual Commander Naval Installation Command Anti-Terrorism and Force Protection Exercise, otherwise known as Citadel Pacific 2022, starting on the 15th and lasting for 4 days. The exercise will be held in Apra Harbor and other locations at Big Navy and Polaris Point. The exercise involves various training scenarios that replicate real-world events and is designed to enhance the readiness of Navy security forces with which to respond to threats and installations and units. Residents are advised, FYI, to not be alarmed if you should hear or see any increase in military presence around Apple Harbor. There is the possibility of increased patrols and security activity around Naval Base as a result of this planned training, as well as times when the exercise may cause increased traffic around the base or near it. Now, the Naval Base Giant Voice System, the GV system, will be activated, and residents in surrounding areas, typically Santa Rita and Sumai, will hear speakers as the exercises are announced throughout the week. And now, as I mentioned, a regional correspondent Tomas Manglona joins me live on the KUAM couch, and he has a special report as we continue to remember the tragedy that happened a quarter century ago. Of course, talking about Korean Airlines Flight 801. Tomas, half a day. Good to see you as always.
Thank you, Jason. Glad to join you back on set. On Friday, Joan reported on the volunteers and frontliners who were preparing the memorial monument as Guam marked 25 years since that tragic crash. And over the weekend, our Daniel Perez captured the anniversary with many families and loved ones still grieving and processing those times as if it was just yesterday. And today on the latest episode of Pacific Matters and our From the Files podcast, we're sharing a special report from 1998 where then intern Grace Kayanan reported on that monument being unveiled a quarter of a century ago. Before we throw to that story, we hope you stay tuned because we have a special guest joining us later in the show. So again, here's our reporting from 1998.
After of this tragedy, Governor Carl Gutierrez pledged to work closely with the Korean Association of Guam, the community at large, and many others in constructing a monument paying homage to those on board and their families.
The slopes of Nimitz Hill will always be remembered as the unfortunate landing site of Korean Air Flight 801. But just yards away from the actual crash is a monument representing 229 lives lost and 25 lives spared. Director of Bureau and Planning, Clifford Guzman.
It was basically in the height of this, when there was a lot of emotions going on. The governor felt that it was an appropriate thing to do, was to offer the opportunity to do this. The Korean Association immediately jumped on the bandwagon with him, and together they formed a plan, and this is the result.
Inscribed with the names of all on board, 2 poems and a brief description of what happened, also 3 urns containing the remains of identified victims, sit inside this marble-faced obelisk. While the idea of the monument came only days after the fatal crash, it was only in May when ground was broken for this 24-foot structure.
It was an unfortunate thing, and it serves also as a reminder to all of us that how fragile life is, and that it's also a reminder of our ability to be able to pull together and help others. And I think that's one of the best lessons that we could ever learn.
With the help of various private agencies and others, including $100,000 from the Korean Association of Guam and $75,000 from the Guam Visitors Bureau, that funding was made available for construction of the monument. Yesterday, just 1 day short of the first anniversary, more than 350 family members attended the memorial dedication ceremony. An emotional day for families and friends remembering loved ones aboard KEL Flight 801. Acting Governor Madeline Berdallo says this monument acknowledges the pain, sorrow, and grief caused by a single crash and what is said to be the 3rd worst airplane accident on American soil.
Well, it was a too big tragedy for him to please himself to see the memorial service. It can be a solace for him to please his son's soul.
While a majority flew in from Korea for this event, some flying in from as far as California. Mina Park had 11 relatives aboard Flight 801, and ironically, 14 years ago, she lost her husband in the Soviet shooting of Korean Air Flight 007. Local resident Young Ju lost his 23-year-old sister and his 1-year-old niece.
First, a couple months, it was kind of hard, but they're just coping. They're fine.
Among those who survived, New Zealander Barry Small. He says attending their ceremony was an emotional one for him as well.
I feel very privileged, but very, very guilty. I've got a fear of being resented for being one of the survivors. I haven't seen that happen, but I just something in my own heart.
Many others expressed their grief, some looking out into the hillside where the airplane landed, trying to get a glimpse of what actually happened, and others holding on to the memorial symbolizing the death of their loved one.
We leave you tonight with the names of the people who died in the fatal crash of Korean Airline Flight 801. From all of us here at KUAM, good night.
Absolutely amazing to look back on that, Tomas. I remember I was 2 years out of college when that happened. It was very early in the morning. I mean, it's one of the most harrowing memories. You know, for me as a citizen of this island, I can only imagine, you know, like what it was like for the people like directly affected by it back then. But also featuring was Gracie Kyanan.
Right, who was then an intern. Obviously, you know, I was born in '98, so doing this project and scanning the tapes here at KUAM, really also bringing it back to our generation to never forget. And so we actually got a chance to catch up with Grace just a few moments ago. She joined our KUAM News Zoom room to catch up and reflect on those times. Shannon Brown, who in that 1998 special report you saw there, do that report. And Grace, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us where were you then and where you're at now, several years later, 25 years later?
Yes, Thomas, thank you so much for having me on the show today. 25 years ago, I was a news reporter for the KUAM news team, and I covered the site or the actual crash that happened 25 years ago. Now I'm in Huntington Beach, California. I have two beautiful kids, and I am now a practicing attorney. Started my own practice 3 years ago and have been practicing law since I left KUAM back in 2001.
And so what was it like covering that tragedy just over the weekend? The memorial was held at the monument site, something that your package in 1998 focused on. Do you remember what it was like covering that tragedy?
I remember it very well. In fact, I had goosebumps when Marie Calvo reached out to me asking me to do this story. That day was really crazy. The morning of the crash, I was actually at the airport that morning picking up my dad, and it was kind of a little weird, really quiet. Got home and my mom called. She was in California at that time, and she's like, "Turn on the news. You guys are on the island. You're on the news, the island, there's a crash." So I picked up my pager and I had over 20 messages like, "Hurry up, get to the station, 911." And this was like at 5:45 in the morning. It was a crazy day, very overwhelming. We, the news team, were all trying to gather as much information to figure out what happened, what caused this plane to go down, and what could have been done to prevent it. We also were trying to figure out who was on that plane, who survived, how many people died. It was a crazy situation because you think about it, we are a small island in the Pacific, 212 square miles, and all of a sudden, our tiny island is the center of the world's attention. Not only were we gathering information to tell our island people about what was happening in Nimitz Hill, we were gathering information from across the globe. I had phone calls from the Middle East, phone calls from Australia, meeting news members from London at the airport that morning. So it was definitely a crazy, hectic, and overwhelming day. It was really sad what happened that day and getting the information. It took a lot of legwork to get as much information as we can. And as you know, with big crashes like this, we can't get the answers so quickly. In fact, I believe it took several years for the NTSB to hold their hearing to find out what exactly happened that morning.
And what do you remember from the newsroom? You mentioned you woke up to those 20 messages in the aftermath, and as you said, the years that it took, because this story is still ongoing. We're covering it 25 years later with its anniversary. What was the newsroom like? Do you remember what it was like in the office?
Oh, I do. It was chaotic. It was definitely chaotic because not only were all the news staff on the phone constantly taking phone calls from everybody, gathering the information, we had media personnel from across the globe going through our news station. Back then, we were an NBC CBS affiliate, so we had those news team members actually working out of our station in Citadel. It was crazy and hectic in a sense that there were a lot of unanswered questions. There were a lot of emotions involved. I recall like a few days after the crash, there was an actual protest at the airport. We had family members whose family passed away in the crash. They were at the airport and protesting. They're really upset with the airport officials as to what happened. So it was chaotic in a sense that we wanted to provide all the information we were able to get to the public. However, the information was limited in the early days covering the crash.
And Grace, before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you, reflecting now, you're an attorney now in the States, looking back at this type of reporting and the stories that were told, just the importance of telling these stories, what's your comment on that?
My comment, it's really tragic that we had to experience this happen to our island. But with working with a wonderful team back then, it was great that we came together to do what we needed to do to inform the public of what's going on. It was a learning experience, and hopefully it's something we don't have to, or you don't have to experience ever again.
All right. Thank you so much, Grace Brown, for joining us. Wonderful to have you back at KUAM for this brief moment. And we thank you for your work that you did at the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Tomas, that was one of the people that, I mean, literally you were standing on the shoulders of giants now, because Gracie Kyanan, as she was known at the time, did some fantastic work for us as a news anchor and as a reporter.
Yes, and so that full interview with some older and probably familiar faces as well can be viewed on our latest episode of Pacific Matters, which is up on YouTube, and again, part of the KUAM podcast network from the files. So you can catch it there. We can never watch and learn and relearn that history, Jason. So grateful for Grace and the news team then that gathered it. Really impactful reporting.
Yeah, I don't think any of us that have been here as long as I have ever actually called her Grace. She was always like Gracie.
Gracie. Yes, yeah. She was saying her TV name was Gracie. So.
Yeah.
And she'll be watching this later. I know she's in California, and we thank her for her time.
Yeah, so Gracie, we miss you, and we are very, very proud of you, and not at all surprised that you are a rock star lawyer, but we wish you and your family all the best. So, Tomas, fantastic reporting. Great as always.
Thanks.
All right, please stay tuned, everybody. Canada Conversations is coming up right after the break.
KUAM Care Force, along with partners Guam Animals in Need and the Booneyfly Project, are asking you to join NBC Universal in their nationwide effort to clear the shelters this August. We're encouraging our community to get involved, donate to these organizations, and adopt and foster pets to help our growing stray animal population on Guam. For the 8th consecutive year, NBC is raising awareness and funds in their local communities to support animal welfare. Since its inception in 2015, Clear the Shelters has helped more than 700,000 pets find new homes homes. Join us all August long for live reports on KUAM News Hotspot and Primetime, special news series, My Pet's Story, a weekly series on KUAM Digital showcasing heartwarming stories of pets who found loving homes. Weekly posts on KUAM social media platforms featuring pets in need of homes. Let's do our part to clear the shelters and support animals in need.
Say hello to the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. Got a question about your finances? You've come to the right place. Bring all your accounts together, even those that aren't with us, and see the big picture, right down to the smallest detail. Unlock powerful tools like Insights and Money Map that help you save time and take control of your finances. When you connect accounts with the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app, it all starts with yes.
Lunches, snacks, we got diapers for baby girl. Oh, 7:15, we gotta go. Bread, milk, gas for work. Remember to grab Joe Boy a birthday present. Half a day.
Hey, Molly, how much do you pay for daycare for the kids?
Over $600 a month. It's expensive.
Did you hear about the governor's program that covers up to $675 a month for childcare?
Wow, that would be a lifesaver with the rising costs of everything.
Check guamchildcare.com to apply. We qualified. I even booked an appointment for someone to walk me through the process.
guamchildcare.com. Okay, thanks. I'll apply today.
This ad is paid for with federal funds administered by DPHSS.
As the Decision 2022 race shapes up, keep it with KUAM News for all the news you need to know as you head to the polls. From weekly candidate profile analysis on the Hub on KUAM News Hotspot to our online candidate directory on KUAM.com, special features on KUAM Digital and KUAM News Primetime, plus live coverage of forums and debates. We're your one-stop source on every platform. Stay informed with KUAM News, your news leader, the voice of the Marianas.
All right, everybody. I was just saying to our esteemed guest right now on Candidate Conversations, I know my Nana, God bless her soul, is watching right now, and she's like, you know, you're related to all three of them, so you know, you better treat them nice. And because, of course, we are KUAM, we want to make sure that you stay informed. To consider the three people that we have here on the KUAM couch, as well as all of the outstanding Guamanians who are seeking your endorsement as members of the 37th Guam Legislature. So joining us right now, the incumbent senator, of course, Senator Sabina Perez. Hafaday.
Hafaday, Jason. Thank you for having me here
I
today.
have literally talked to you 700,000 times in the last 2 years, but this is the first time we've ever been able to see each other face to face since the pandemic started. So it's a great pleasure to see you, Senator.
It's nice to see you in person as well.
All right. Very good to see former Senator, three-term Senator, former Mr. America, along with a whole list of bodybuilding accomplishments, the one and only Jess Lujan. Welcome home, Jess, back to KUAM.
Thank you. I missed my set. It was right over there.
It was right over there. The buzz was about like 20 feet away.
The buzz was right over there. I miss it. No, this is home.
I got to say, where did you get that shirt? And are there any more like it? Because I missed out on that on Amazon Prime Day. That's a fantastic island
You know, my sister got this for me.
Okay.
She says, you know what? Every time I tell you to wear something nice, you buy something that's really ugly. And so she got me a shirt. She goes, this is my gift to you.
That's a campaign shirt, man, if ever there was one. Very, very nice.
So my sister Renee, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Renee. Good choice. And of course, Michelle Hope Taitano, who I have not seen in quite a while, but a very good friend of mine and a very, very esteemed member of our community. So Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great jacket, I must say. We like to point out fashion here on Candidate Conversations.
Okay.
That's a nice jacket.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. Always good to see you. Always good to be here.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for your work here.
Okay.
Guys in the back, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, we'd like to give each of these accomplished, outstanding, honorable Guamanians 60 seconds to tell you a little bit about themselves, and we're going to go in order here on the couch. But first, I would be remiss, because we're talking about fashion. Senator, those are some fantastic shoes. I know you said you didn't want to wear some like socks that would draw attention to themselves, but those are really nice shoes. Are those patent leather?
I think so, yeah.
Thank
you. Thank you for the compliment.
I'm a sucker for any patent leather shoes, all the way back to my ROTC days. So more important matters, of course, is your own campaign. So you have 60 seconds to tell people about yourself, if you please.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jason, for this opportunity. My name is Sabina Perez, Familing Godzo Cabeza. I was formerly a teacher, diabetes researcher, and medical technologist. I'm an incumbent senator. I served in the 35th and 36th Guam legislatures. I'm running for senator because I want to continue the work to restore our environment and economy through, and also diversify our economy through education, increase affordable housing, as well as local production, including food production, and as well as in transparency in our government. You can trust that I will continue to work hard using my expertise as a scientist and an educator to craft long-term solutions and to protect the public trust. I'm number 5 on the Democratic ticket, and I humbly ask for your vote to Tuasmasi.
All right, very well, Senator. Thank you very much. All right, to Jess Lujan right now, of course, representing the GOP. Jess, your hair has changed color, but I must say, still as great as it's ever been. You've always had a really good set of hair.
You know, I would like to say that it's, I colored it. But it's
I think nature took care of that.
Nature took care of it, yeah.
Well, what else, Jess, do people not know about you?
As you said, Jason, I served in 27th, 28th, and 29th Guam legislature, and worked here, did the buzz, both TV and radio for 10 years. And, you know, during the pandemic, actually prior to the pandemic, I was visiting my wife and daughter in the Philippines. I was stuck there for 14 months. And I thought, of course, you know, my days in public service have been completed and all that. I was looking at Guam from afar and saw what was happening, what the pandemic had done to our island and its people. And thank God the federal government had come through with you know, a lot of money to bail us out. And as I was looking and seeing what was happening and what not was happening, I was writing letters and things to government officials as to, you know, things that what is being done in other destinations to get out of the pandemic. And I said, well, never mind. You know what? Let me get back in the fray. Let me go back and help to get things done and help stimulate our economy and get people back to work again.
Well, a very noble pursuit, certainly, and one that many of your colleagues did in the previous legislature, along with Senator Sabina Perez. You know, like Joanne came back, Tony Atta came back. You know,
Chris Duenas came back.
Chris Duenas came back. Thank you.
So,
all right, so well done, Jess.
Thank you.
All right, to Michelle Hope Taitano right now. Michelle, what do people perhaps not know about you, and why they should consider you when they head to the polls?
What do they don't know about me? Well, gosh, there's probably a lot, but I'm a God-fearing woman. Maybe they know about that one already, but I really love people, and I love our island, and we need to kind of make a paradigm in our process forward, because we are just I know the pandemic hit, but we just really need to work harder, closer together, more collaboratively. And so my background is varied. I've got experience in, construction, housing, I've managed properties, and I've also been owned my own business in 12 of the United States, 8 states, 12 businesses. And so that's really challenging, because you have to know what you need to do in the states that you're going to be going into. But yes, I am number 5 on the Republican ballot. Michelle Hope Taitano, I do humbly ask for your vote. Thank you, Jason.
All right, very well, Michelle. And also not mentioned by Michelle, she also has a lovely singing voice. This I know, so I can vouch for that.
Gosh, thank you.
There you go. I've heard you in church and everything. Very, very impressive.
Aw.
Okay, so now we'll begin the Q&A section. And again, we'll start in the same order, and each of you have 60 seconds to respond to the following. And we'll start with Senator Sabina Perez. Senator, obviously you said that your academic work, you spent a lot of time in academia. You're a Husky, so you went to UW, University of Washington, great football school.
Right.
So you have an appreciation for theory, right? So I'd like you to maybe say, like, what assurances can you provide to the community as they consider you for another senatorial run, that you will deliver tangible, quantifiable results and improve our way of life aside from the theoretical?
Oh, thank you for that question. I actually did pass 20 pieces, or more than 20 bills in the last 2 terms, and they all dealt with the platform of sustainability. So one of the bills, the first bill that I actually passed, was providing critical funding for Guam Solid Waste Authority in their efforts to end receivership, which was important for the judge to make that decision. And so now we're seeing the benefits of that with the third cell being in operation right now. And so really I hit the ground running. I'm a hardworking senator, and my approach is more of a holistic approach. So what I do is I study the problem and then identify various solutions and basically work towards all those solutions. So for instance, like with illegal dumping, for instance, it's a multi-pronged, we have to take a multi-pronged approach. And I've already started by increasing enforcement, and I've advocated for more resources to Guam EPA. The other piece would be perhaps is universal collections to reduce that, the temptation for illegal dumping. So that's the kind of work that I have done. And I'm a person of action as well.
Very well. I know from, I've received testimony, if you will, from many people, Senator, that they said if they ask for an audience with you and everything like that, you're normally very, very gracious in accommodating them. You know, be it an organization, a person off the street who just wants to, you know, bend your ear about something. So that's commendable as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Senator. All right, to Jess Lujan right now. Just your platform, which I've seen on your website, which is fantastic, by the way. It's a 6-point plan. 4 of those points are very centric towards economic improvement, right?
Sure.
And you have always been one to fight for economic diversity and giving us a better economy. Combating inflation, job security, and job creation is part of your platform. Should you secure a seat in the 37th, how do you plan to helm us through some very challenging waters as we're probably heading towards a recession?
Well, thank you for the question, Jason. As you know, in my previous service in the 27th, 28th, and 29th Guam legislature, I championed the open skies situation with airlines and competition. As a result of that, we were able to get more budget airlines to be able to come to Guam, and people were at alternatives to fly. And one of my platforms as well is, and this is a great time to have it, is a waiver, at least in the Jones Act. I'm asking for a 24-month waiver in the Jones Act because
regulating shipping, governing shipping,
regulating shipping. Absolutely, the Jones Act actually is the umbrella act, basically, that governs even the cabotage and all that, right? But asking for a 24-month waiver, you know, both the Trump and the Biden administrations got a waiver for Puerto Rico during the devastating massive hurricane that they had, and we have even a better argument to plead with the federal government to get a 24-month waiver to be able to do that. Now, okay, inflation is a contributing factor for vital sources needed, but not only that, but because of the restrictive Jones Act situation that's in place, a 24-month waiver, at least for us to be able to get the economy back in shape again. Yeah, and I definitely will push for that. Yeah.
And I know even in your time when you weren't a senator, you were still talking, you know, like about the Jones Act and how it perhaps needs to be changed.
It was relevant then. Even more relevant now.
There you go. All right, thank you, Jess. All right, over to Michelle Hope Taitano, fellow Republican. Michelle, how many times have you run for public office now?
Probably this is the 4th for senator, 2 for mayor.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What continues to motivate you to pursue this endeavor? I mean, you've done a lot of community service work, as you said. You know, like you've been a civic servant your entire career. What about being a senator is so attractive to you, and that you want to do that kind of work?
Well, I really believe that the mission is bigger than just myself. You know, it's bigger, and we just got to continue to make better and bigger improvements. Jess was talking about the Jones Act, and one of the things I wanted to do too is be able to, God willing, I'll have a seat in the legislature, that we really need to work closely with our delegate so that we can not just get a waiver for 2 years. I'd like to seek for a permanent waiver, or just really stop it for Guam. And I know we were working on that in the past. So I'd like to see that and then happen and work it to where we can just really increase bring down our prices, and we don't have to pay those high shipping costs that affect all of us on island. And now just be able to the mission is being able to not just have a new hospital, not just have a new prison, it's making it more effective in that you don't just have people in jail or at the hospital have healthier lifestyles, so we can be sustainable, holistically sustainable. And you know, with education starting at the elementary and just building them up and building the kids so that we can also have them ready to be sustainable after they graduate high school. So yeah, just kind of different methods of programs that I'd like to see, because it does affect us and we need to be a little bit more sustainable.
All right, Michelle, very well, thank you for that. Whoever the Guam's congressional delegate will be, obviously that's going to be a new person. It's either going to be Talina Nelson, Dr. Judy Wanpat, or Jim Moylan.
Jim Moylan,
Yeah,
woo! My team member.
There you go. All right, let's go back to Senator Sabina Perez now. Senator, as you said, you introduced and had 20 bills successfully passed. Of course, you have stood behind several more that your colleagues have proposed and debated them over the years. Which of those that you have proposed in the past that did not, for whatever reason, be enacted into public law, do you wish could have gotten more consideration and could actually be public policy now?
Yeah, there's only one of those bills that didn't pass, and that was the implementation of the cigarette stamp tax.
Okay.
And what that bill would have done, it would have reduced the delay in tax collection. So that's been one of my approaches, is to find out where we're under collecting and bring in more revenues to help assist with the government services. And so one of them was the undercollection of tobacco taxes. And there's two really models, right? There's the privatized model and the government model. And my bill was actually more towards the government model, which would have collected those taxes at a much reduced cost. And so what that meant was these increased collections would go towards more towards our vital services, such as Department of Public Health, the health agencies, the educational Department of Education. And so it was more of a savings, I think. What my bill would have done, it would have increased collections and provide more of that funding to much needed services, especially during the pandemic. And knowing our needs in education, it would have helped fund education as well.
All right, so again, just to reiterate those numbers, so you're basically 20 of 21 as far as introducing bills and getting them passed.
Well, actually, I passed more than 20 bills. So
okay.
Only one of them didn't make it.
Okay, I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, that's a better batting average than Babe Ruth. So, just consider that, boys and girls. But very impressive, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you. And I lost by 1 vote. So I was shy 1 vote in getting that passed.
There you go. Okay, so back to Jess Lujan. Jess, you were talking about fair price competition, something that you've always talked about, even when you had a show here at KUAM. Again, should the economy contract, how will you, as a sitting senator, work for fair price, for vendors, for wholesalers, for consumers, and things like that?
Well, one of the things, Jason, of course, in jesselujan.org, you would see that we still have a lot of money in a savings account right now. The folks out there, businesses, the LEAP program, the ARP program. I know that the administration is looking at building a new hospital, but right now there are urgent needs. I mean, there's a need, of course, as Dr. Shea said, to build up the delivery area of Guam Memorial Hospital, and we need to do it now. But we have urgent need for businesses right now to be able to continue to thrive, to be able to employ people. Likewise, in employees who are underemployed or unemployed at this point. Temporary jobs, we have these money for temporary jobs to use as a bridge until the economy picks back up. And we can use them to be able to clean our parks and to be able to have our streets and neighborhoods safer. These jobs will just only be temporary jobs. Work with the mayors to identify the problem areas in the community and give them temporary jobs until, again, the private sector picks back up, and then we re-employ them. But these monies need, again, that's why these ARP and LEAP monies were there for, is to help the community. And we're not doing as such at this point. We have those monies, put them out there to help these temporary employment until such a time. Again, it just provides a bridge to get us from this to full employment.
All right, very, very well-crafted plan, Jess. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, and let's go to Michelle. Before we take a commercial break, let's go to Michelle Hope Titano. Michelle, I remember when we were on this very set, you told us in 2018 that your platform's #1 priorities at that time were, and let me get this right, public safety, economic development, and health/education. Have those priorities changed now to maybe meet more contemporary issues, or are you still standing by those platforms?
Well, they're pretty similar because a lot of those still need a lot of work in them. So it's like education. Education will strengthen our families, our economy, and public safety. When we get the kids ready, going through school, they learn early. They may even be able to choose something they like to do at the elementary level, take it on to middle school, and then by high school, they're ready. They can come out and be sustainable. And then that will grow that's growing our economy and our own people, building our own workforce. And then they become sustainable. And of course, they can go on to university or more trades, but they will be able to be better at that. They'll learn life skills. So in addition to the core curriculum, I'd like to see programs implemented, and we'll write grants and looking to see if we can write grants and do public-private partnerships and with nonprofits as well, and to be able to work together with our DOE so that we can offer kids more opportunities so that they can get ready to become sustainable. So yeah, they're all kind of still there, Jace, but you know, we got to spin it to a newer time because of the changes and more challenges these days.
Well, that's an interesting point, Michelle, because everybody talks about sustainability and they think of exclusively environmental issues, but sustainability is also applicable in a variety of other ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very well put. All right, everybody, we are going to take a quick commercial break. We are just scratching the surface because we will actually address more issues, including sustainability, with Senator Sabina Perez. That's her big thing. So we're going to talk to her about that, and Jess and Michelle, when we return.
Get up-to-the-minute news, plus access to alerts, streaming radio, promotions, and more on your mobile device by downloading the KUAM News mobile app, available at the App Store now.
There's epic, then there's ultra epic. Capture life in vivid resolution with Galaxy's most advanced camera system and the built-in S Pen that puts you in control. Every moment, every angle, from sunrise to sundown and beyond. More striking, more stunning than ever. Find the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra at your nearest iTunes store or online at ite.net and change the way you work and play.
Lunches, snacks, we got diapers for baby girl. Oh, 7:15, we gotta go. Bread, milk, gas for work. Remember to grab Joe Boy a birthday present. Half a day.
Hey, Molly, how much do you pay for daycare for the kids?
Over $600 a month. It's expensive.
Did you hear about the governor's program that covers up to $675 a month for childcare?
Wow, that would be a lifesaver with the rising costs of everything.
Check guamchildcare.com to apply. We qualified. I even booked an appointment for someone to walk me through the process.
guamchildcare.com. Okay, thanks. I'll apply today.
This ad is paid for with federal funds administered by DPHSS.
Say hello to the first Hawaiian Bank mobile app. Want a better look at your spending? With Money Map, you can automatically create budgets and manage where your money is going. Know when you have a green light, or when it's time to slow down. Maybe cook more meals at home this week. Set your goals, track your progress, and find your way to exactly where you want to be. With Money Map from the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. It all starts with yes.
This year, we're expanding our Decision 2022 platform to include comprehensive coverage of the election in the Northern Marianas. Stay with KUAM News for candidate conversations on Pacific matters, interviews with the gubernatorial teams, coverage of debates and forums, and live coverage on the general election night. We're your news leader, the voice of the Marianas.
The KUAM Care Force, along with partners Guam Animals in Need and the Booneyfly Project, are asking you to join NBC Universal in their nationwide effort to clear the shelters this August. We're encouraging our community to get involved, donate to these organizations, and adopt and foster pets to help our growing stray animal population on Guam. For the 8th consecutive year, NBC is raising awareness and funds in their local communities to support animal welfare. Since its inception in 2015, Clear the Shelters has helped more than 700,000 pets find new homes. Join us all August long for live reports on KUAM News HotSpot and Primetime, special news series, My Pet's Story, a weekly series on KUAM Digital showcasing heartwarming stories of pets who found loving homes, weekly posts on KUAM social media platforms featuring pets in need of homes. Let's do our part to clear the shelters and support animals in need.
The segment is Candidate Conversations, and our esteemed guests today are Michelle Hope Taitano and Jess Lujan, both Republicans, and of course the incumbent Democrat, Senator Sabina Perez. And we start with the good senator for our next round of questions. Senator, one of the areas that you oversee is affordable housing. That's also on the bio that you put on our website. I'd like to pick your brain about the frequently echoed sentiment that they say, because of the housing market and the changes to the middle class is basically dropped out, and the only people that can really get a quality home these days are either the super elite rich or people that are on the lower end of the income spectrum and everything? And what do you think has to be done to improve that?
It's a great question, Jason. Actually, I don't oversee housing, but I take a big interest in that because I see it as we have a critical shortage here. Obviously, it's very difficult to compete against housing vouchers from the military, so there's a huge demand on the higher end of the scale. And so we really, what I would like to advocate is for mixed-use developments in more urban areas where there's infrastructure readily available. As you can see, there's a lot of underutilized structures, commercial structures that are in need of renovation. And I would like to see more work being done in like Tamooning or other areas where there's you could live above your workspace. So it really helps to reduce the cost of living because you don't have to drive to work, and you basically you live and work in the same area.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. I know a lot of big companies in the States, they've also put forth that idea of like, what would happen, like I think it was back in the 20s and 30s in the US with like the mining community where you'd have an entire town dedicated to, like that company. So I mean, certainly it parallels what you were just talking about. So yeah, that's very creative, Senator. Thank you. All right, let's go to Jess Lujan now. Jess, one of the touching points on your platform is you're very, very bullish on fighting crime.
Absolutely.
Explain, please.
Well, first of all, again, when we look at what's happening, what's ravaging our economy right now, of course, the pandemic has caused a lot of devastation to our economy. There is only one situation in Guam where prices are a lot lower and things are a lot higher. ICE is a low time low. Okay, and likewise, it's wreaking havoc in our economy, and the more ICE that's out there, the more crime you have. We are still in the public health state of emergency. I think the administration should proclaim a public health emergency in crime and drug use and ICE, and with that, we have to basically with that under control, you'll be able to control your economy a lot better, because as we constrict, our economy constricts, as the inflationary prices are wreaking havoc on our island, you're going to see more people resorting again to try to again relieve themselves of their anxiety, and a lot of them are turning to drugs, and as they do that, crime will rise. So once you curtail the use of drugs and by the proclamation of an emergency for that, you're going to reduce crime. And with that as well, people are not safe in their homes, and people in businesses are not safe as well. And we're seeing what's happening back in the mainland, and hopefully, I pray to God, it doesn't happen here in our island.
Would you support the reestablishment of the Mandania Drug Task Force?
Absolutely, absolutely. And likewise, when I talked earlier about these temporary jobs to have safer neighborhoods, is provide these temporary jobs in our neighborhoods and pay these folks to be able to again be like safety patrols in the neighborhoods. And these again will just take us, they're a bridge to take us from here to when they start being employed, and then the economy rises, and then we fully fund the police force to be able to bring enough folks in public safety to help save keep our community safe.
All right, well done, Jess. Okay, and on the topic of public safety, Michelle, I'd like to ask you, but with your long-standing work with the parole board, that actually has direct implications, obviously, on public safety. Yes. So. A lot of people talk about, refunding the police department to get more cops in training and then out on the streets, and, like Jess's ideas on curtailing the drug problem. Can you talk to us a little bit about where your experience on the parole board, how that actually makes our villages safer?
All right. Thank you, Jace. Good question and good points. So when I was on the parole board, what was coming through, the folks coming out and asking for parole, they had issues with education, transportation, housing, and training, and then jobs, of course. So they're challenged with those. And when we set them out and they're not ready to be sustainable in any way, or even halfway sustainable, especially because a lot of them do come from the drug issues, and their families kind of have not trusted them. So sometimes they're not able to go back into their families. So therefore, they have to figure out what to do. And a lot of times they figure out, because we don't have a real support system for them in those areas that I just mentioned, then they fend for themselves. And and so that kind of creates a little bit more temptation for them to go back to doing what they did. And so I believe that if we, of course, we're going to have the public safety side, the GPD side, but really not all of them, not everybody who goes to jail is going to be life or long sentences. They're going to eventually come out. So we're going to need to really develop extra programs to deal with the core issues, the root issues of why they're taking substance or why they are committing these crimes. Or and a lot of them just really don't have education and the coaching that they really need. So I'd like to see and work with that a little bit more, because we need that in our community, because that will, when we get people sustainable and they have jobs and they're actively either doing community service or employed or doing entrepreneurial activities and businesses, then our community is safer. I really believe that. Okay, very, very well done, Michelle. All right, guys, we got time for one more round, so let's go back to the senator. And Senator, of course, the one thing that you do oversee, this I know, is the environment. Oversee the environment. It's a multidimensional problem. So can you touch very briefly on, where do you see we Guamanians as being maybe more aware of the importance of sustainability and some of the work that now has been launched and undertaken to get us to where we need to be with sustainability?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we really need to connect the economy, environment, and the people together. I think if we can take care of if we take care of our economy should be able to take care of the people and the environment, and vice versa. If we take care of our environment, it should be able to take care of our economy and the people. And I think this is the heart of sustainability, and this is where I think the work really lies, because we can address these issues as they come up, but really making those connections, I think, is what the hard work that we need to do to ensure sustainability for our island. So. One of the projects that I'm working on is, basically promoting alternatives to open burn, open detonation. It's an outdated practice, and there are already safer alternatives that exist, and other communities are implementing. And they just passed the PACT Act in Congress. And one of those things was the recognition that open burn, open detonation causes a lot of harm, health harms to our veterans. And also to the communities that are in close proximity, like in Guam. We do have an open burn, open detonation pit here in Guam, and I think it's really important to continue that work so that we can protect the health of our people. All right, very well, Senator. Thank you very much. All right, Jess, your final question. You said you felt the calling to come back to public service and run again and reclaim your seat as a senator. In your view, has the business, and I'm using that term very loosely, has the business of crafting public policy and representing the constituency here, has it changed since the last time you sat 15 years ago?
Well, crafting policy hasn't changed in over the years. Crafting policy is a job of the legislature, but there are things that we can do right now in regards to policy that's in place, and either that or amend policy to revert back to things that work in a constricting economy. We still have things in place when our economy was pretty good and tourism was at an all-time high. I called in the administration to get together with the Chamber of Commerce and the legislature to see what taxes we can roll back and fees that we can temporarily suspend, because in a constricting economy, we still have measures in place that again were in place when we had a booming economy. And so you don't continue to do things in a constricting economy the way you did when you had a lot of tourists and more money in the economy. So I call, and could be done now. You don't have to wait for us to get in the legislature. Is right now call the chamber together with the legislature and the governor. What can we roll back right now? Let's roll back some the BPT, the GRT. Let's look at what fees and government fees that we can temporarily suspend or roll back until we get our economy back in shape. And one of the other things, again, that's underserved and questions are never asked is, how do we serve our veterans? One of the things that we need to seriously look at is how we can integrate medical care with either GovGuam or the federal government in their medical health care. And again, as our economy constricts, okay, and more veterans are coming out and living in our community, those the underserved veterans, lives are going to get even harder and even harder for them to access medical care and care they need. So we need to work collaboratively, not just with our legislature, but with the federal government, and how can we integrate some medical care for our veterans here in Guam, because there are more and more on a daily basis that are becoming vets here in Guam.
All right, thank you, Jess. Let me go to Michelle for our last question. Michelle, you've also worked in real estate, as you said. Given what the senator said about, the changing nature of the real estate market, as someone who used to do that work and probably still continues to do that work, where do you see that industry as a critical component in our island's microeconomy?
Well, Guam is really good. We're very tenacious, and we come back. Even the challenges for a long time, we've been in a housing shortage, and we are really, I would like to see, and thank you, Senator Sabine, because I really believe we do need that paradigm to happen in our housing so that we can help our people to either at least own property, and or some of them even are having trouble renting. And I think we need to also work with our federal counterparts on housing, the Fair Housing Act for Guam, because we have a lot of families here, big families. And I find that those challenges can come because there's so many people. There can be 10 people in a family, and a lot of times the owners and the landlords are not quite interested in allowing so many people on one property. So I believe that we work with policy, the federal housing, so that we can at least mitigate some of the issues that we have that are pertinent to Guam, and then we try to just get it better so that we can have a better housing economy for everyone, and the vets too. I would like to see Martin.
Well, you got 5 seconds. I'll let you
5 seconds. Vets, we got plans for housing.
All right, there you go. Okay, please stay tuned, because we will wrap up the show and say goodbye to our senatorial candidates when we return.
The KUAM Care Force, along with partners Guam Animals in Need and the Booneyfly Project, are asking you to join NBC Universal in their nationwide effort to clear the shelters this August. We're encouraging our community to get involved, donate to these organizations, and adopt and foster pets to help our growing stray animal population on Guam. For the 8th consecutive year, NBC is raising awareness and funds in their local communities to support animal welfare. Since its inception in 2015, Clear the Shelters has helped more than 700,000 pets find new homes. Join us all August long for live reports on KUAM News HotSpot and Primetime, special news series, My Pet's Story, a weekly series on KUAM Digital showcasing heartwarming stories of pets who found loving homes, weekly posts on KUAM social media platforms featuring pets in need of homes. Let's do our part to clear the shelters and support animals in need.
I'm dating myself for this.
All right, everybody. Real quick, wide shot. We'd like to give each of our candidates your number, real quick, please.
I'm number 5, and I humbly ask for your vote. I'm the Democratic ticket.
There you go.
This is Jesse Anderson Lohan, numero 2 gi Baloto gi Republican na banda. Thank you very much.
God bless you. Michelle Hope Titan, number 5 on the Republican ballot.
All right. Okay, we do have a segment that we want to run. Very, very sad news about someone who, people my age, we all really loved, Olivia Newton-John. Her acting, her music, and probably her role as Sandy in Grease, unfortunately passed away today. Here is the very latest on the look back of a true entertainer, Olivia Newton-John.
Olivia Newton-John took 80s aerobics to another level. The title single off her double platinum album, Fiscal, spent 10 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was not only the biggest hit of the pop singer's career, but the number 1 hit of the entire decade. The English-born, Australian-raised singer rose to fame in the 1978 movie adaptation of the musical Grease. She played Sandy, opposite John Travolta's Danny Zuko. The movie became the biggest box office hit of the year and enjoys an enduring popularity in the U.S.
40 years later, who would have thunk it?
Cast members and the director reunited in 2018 for the film's 40th anniversary.
We feel very grateful that this is still a part of everyone's. They love it.
Off-screen, Newton-John was a longtime activist for environmental and animal rights issues. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1992. It returned for the 3rd time in 2017.
You look pretty
Well,
fearless to me right now.
I'm not afraid of anything right now.
Speaking with Gail King for Sunday Morning, Newton-John relied on her trademark sunny optimism.
I've chosen that path to be grateful and to feel good about things because the other side's not so good.
Newton-John poured her energy into her own healing and raising money for her cancer center in Australia, supporting research for plant-based medicine and wellness therapies.
I'm really delighted with all the support that we're getting for the centre.
Newton-John was made a dame in 2020 for her service to charity, cancer research, and entertainment, all things close to her heart.
I honestly love you.
Michael George, CBS News.
All right, so we'll wave goodbye to the show, and we'll wave goodbye to Olivia Newton-John. Thank you for all those memories. All right.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.